Well, you clicked on the video, so you know what this is about. But for those of you who are a little newer or a little more out of the loop, this is a bit of a recap. Over the past year or so, I've been going over the top 10 strongest of every type, going over the arbitrary rules that it has to be obtainable in Scarlet and Violet, and that it can't be some base 670 BST machine, unless that's a result of its Terra. Don't worry too much about that. So pretty much, you got the number one entry of all 18 types going into one gigantic compilation video. So Dragon and Bug had to be changed, because Genesect and Dracofish are not obtainable in Generation 9. And with every single type being ranked, and some types sharing a clear spot for the strongest available one, and some types even having the same one, well, it was only a matter of time before I put a compilation for the strongest of every type to save people the trouble of figuring out what's banned and why. Because, oh boy, you cannot bring a lot of these to a Gen 9 OU single match. I'll be doing these in the order they were originally released, with some entries modified that take into account that DLC happened since this series had started. And yeah, this is about singles, so no Incineroar allowed. As usual, there will be timestamps in the description below if you're looking for a specific type as well. But for now, let's get started. I mean, it's Baxcalibur, who at this point, if I have to keep saying its name, I'm gonna icicle crash my head into my desk. Wait, it doesn't even run that. At least not frequently. It likes Ice Shard and Icicle Spear somewhat, more from my memory. We all know how this goes. Scale Shot and Swords Dance are the D-Dance set. Some run Substitute. Some run Ice Body, while others run Thermal Exchange. Some Baxcalibur are just perfectly happy spamming Glaive Rush, because the risk of taking double damage doesn't matter when they've one-shot you after a Dragon Dance. The moment that you put it behind Alolan Ninetales' Aurora Veil, the defense buff it gets from Snow, plus said Veil, turns Baxcalibur into almost a guaranteed win. In terms of Gen 9 dragons, it was a toss-up between this guy, Archelodon, and Gouging Fire for me. But Bax took the spot in my opinion because of the absolute havoc it wreaked alongside Alolan Ninetales. It's probably one of the easiest Pokemon ever to use, and its wall-breaking capabilities as well as offensive destruction is insane. And all it really takes is one good turn, and you may have already won the game. You see, back when Gen 9 first started, in the first 2 to 3 days of the game's lifespan, there were two Pokemon I wanted to see banned above all else, because it didn't take metagame development to understand that these two were not okay to have in the tier. Houndstone, if only because Last Respects, and I really just wanted Last Respects gone. Houndstone's ban sucked, but it's back now and we're okay. And then of course, Fluttermane. The meta was horrible. The gameplay was horrible. Fluttermane was horrible. It's an irredeemable monster. Luckily, the console isn't stupid, and it didn't take them too long to get rid of the problem with ruthless efficiency. Now, why did I feel this way? I mean, it has a lot of great things going for it. It's got 135 in its special attacks and speed, a nigh unresisted type combination with the only resistances to it being bad, like Pyroar and the infinitely less bad Grafaiai. It also has access to Calm Mind to boost itself and boost your energy to make it even faster, and the only reliable counterplay to it was precisely Scizor, who wasn't that good in OU anyway. Plus, it had Mystical Fire to catch Scizor on the Switch if it wanted, and the ability to clean up teams because if given a singular free turn at any point, it won on the spot. 3 whole immunities alongside this, and its only weaknesses being Ghost and Steel off the top of my head. All of this giving it a surprising amount of staying power. Yeah, this thing has my ire. It's the best non-super legendary fairy, and it was one of the only 2 Pokemon I ever wanted to see be removed from Gen 9 OU without question. Although every ban that would follow suit very much deserved it. This Pokemon is why I can never dislike Scizor, because it killed Fluttermane for me. And that's all I needed. Yeah, I really don't like Fluttermane, and seeing it in VGC continuing to tear things to shreds has caused me disinterest in a format. I am Fluttermane's greatest enemy due to the war crimes it committed. But, yes, the greatest quiver dancer to ever live, Volcarona. This absolute monolith of a Pokemon whose power could barely be contained in its debut generation, even without heavy-duty boots. While it took a small back seat in Gen 6, in Gen 7, it made excellent use of Z crystals to replace its old reliable gems. And in Gen 8, it made use of boots, despite not having feet, and claiming dominance on the generation. But then, in Generation 9, it was bestowed a new mechanic responsible for many bans, itself included. By changing its type and shedding its weakness latent coil of bug and fire, it could completely turn games around with stuff like Quiver Dance, Fiery Dance, Bug Buzz, Giga Drain, or whatever type it turned into's Terra Blast. Oh, and bulkier variants, just like being hard to kill and abusing Morning Sun, while also threatening any physical contact with Flame Body just to make it even harder to kill. Due to the fact that it could Terra into a multitude of good types, games against Volcarona in Gen 9 have pretty much become, you have the answer or you don't, thus giving it the name Matchup Moth. Nothing in OU could handle this consistently because there were 4 sets with no indicators on which is which, and it was all just one big guessing game. Too much variance. Matchup Moth is Ubers in Gen 9 to this day, making sure to keep that spot as a top tier Pokemon solidified. It's at the apex of its power in this form, and I find it funny that it gets weaker in the future, and the downgrade isn't even that bad of a downgrade. But it said downgrade doesn't know Quiver Dance, so it's a downgrade regardless. Yeah, this one is a really absurd turtle. Blastoise, Torkoal, and Caracosta wish they were this good. It has a base 600 base stat total, has an ability that's literally just better multi-scale by making anything that hits it at full not very effective unless it's specifically immune to it. And then it has one of the most silly sets of all time because of exactly that. Calm Mind and the base 120 power Terra Sandstorm are basically mandatory. Rapid Spin and Rock Polish are 2 very good ways to boost its speed. And then you can choose to play basically any 4th move you want. Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Rest. Why rest? Because if you rest, you go back to full health, which means Terra Shell procs again. And then Chesto Berry can wake you up to ensure you go right back to setting up and swinging. And we aren't even done. If you Terrastalize it, it takes a whole new form that gives it an extra 100 to the base stat total. Game Freak literally gave it a Mega Evolution if you make it go into its stellar form. That essentially means that Terapagos is actually unwallable with enough Calm Minds, with the exception of some very specific stuff depending on the set you chose to play. This mon got banned in a day or two in Smogon OU, and for good reason. It's nuts. Now, in Ubers, when I went online to go ask someone about it, I was told it was Zygarde Complete at home. I hear Zygarde Complete was one of the best physical walls in Ubers. But then again, with stuff like Terra, Zacian Crown, and all these heavy hitters, I'm not seeing an Uber staple. I'm seeing a Uber stable with the potential Uber's niche. Now, you can't tell me that this Pokemon is fun, or well designed, or anything like that. What we all can agree on is that this Pokemon is just the most powerful rock that Game Freak has ever produced. It simply existing makes me mad, angry, or some other word that is eluding me, because I could swear it's a synonym for mad. Garganicle's defenses are obscene, and it could take a hit from just about anything, barring oddly specific but incredibly powerful Pokemon. It can Terra into water, fairy, or ghost, and suddenly shed the billion rock weaknesses to become an actual wall. Salt Cure makes whittling down the opposition so easy that there was a period where people ran Covert Cloak just to beat it. Iron Defense, Recover, and Body Press round out its kit. And once your specially defensive Garg gets off even 1 Iron Defense, the nightmare begins. Why not status it with Toxic? Because Purifying Salt not only adds a ghost resist to it, but prevents it from being affected by any status. It's a dumb, stupid, idiot rock, and it's the best thing ever made. The fact that this ever dropped to UU was a fluke. It's an OU mon, and will be for quite some time.
Who's the man? Yeah, who's the people's champ?
Damn, I wanted to have fun with this one, but somewhere along the way, I got salty or something. I can't quite figure out where though. So I'm gonna end this off on another question. What's your favorite rock type? I mean, yeah, I don't know what you expect from me here. It's faster than Deoxys Speed, who was supposed to be the fastest Pokemon ever. But then Regigigas decided he had a great idea and created a horror beyond our comprehension. I'm not even gonna build up to the idea of what if it just has no way to hit ground types as a bit. Terra Ice Terra Blast kills Great Tusk. It's that simple. Even with Transistor's nerf from Gen 8 to Gen 9, Regieleku's electric attacks hit hard, even coming off of a base 100 special attack. It also, thanks to its speed, has Dragapult syndrome of can just do stuff because it's fast. Screens, spinning, and offense are the main ways to play it, and all of them run Volt Switch because, yeah, pivoting is good. Go figure. Sure, it's arguably this busted entirely because Terra Ice Terra Blast, but hey, that's the game. I don't make the rules. Iron Bundle at least has the decency of being really predictable with its kit, because you only really have your stabs to work with. However, said stabs are ridiculous. A base 124 special attack and base 136 speed, and yes, 136, making it even faster than Qian Pao and the mascot dragon. This is, alongside its Gork stats, is all it needs. You know it's running Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Freeze Dry, and either Flip Turn or U-Turn for pivoting. So why is it better than Qian Pao? Because Iron Bundle doesn't care if you know it's coming. It's going to win anyways. Terra Water Hydro Pump in the rain with speed is so absurd that it can outpace most of its competition. Booster Energy speed makes this even more ridiculous, because now it can come in as a late game cleaner, and nothing short of a Dragapult with a +1 Dragon Dance setup is outspeeding it. And you don't even need to have max speed investment to make it happen. Not even Regieleki can outspeed it, and risks dying to it instead. Couple this with actually usable physical bulk to prevent revenge killing attempts with priority, and you have yourself a stupid Pokemon. I'm probably missing other reasons behind its absurdity, but these are the main ones. God, this mon is broken. Sneasler is just Sneasler. When partnered with any terrain setter and given a corresponding seed, no matter the terrain setter, Sneasler becomes such a stupid win condition that it becomes less funny and more depressing if you're on the other side of it. One Swords Dance is all it needs, and then Acrobatics, Dire Claw, and Close Combat do the rest without fail. Sometimes you replace Acrobatics for Lash Out to get the jump on Goldengo, but that's literally it. Unburdened Sneasler has very few effective ways it can be dealt with. The Poison Touch and Pressure set feels gimmicky at best in comparison. Recommended Terra, Flying or Dark. Who else could it be than the entry that was so angry that it ascended from its mortal shell, and despite its own demise, is more powerful than any fighting type that had come before it. Through its sheer bulk and ability to spam Rage Fist, even if some of the fighting types on this list can defeat it, they fear what happens if it is left unchecked. It always finds a way to set up bulk up, and it always takes damage one way or another. The power of its Rage Fist is unparalleled, said to completely annihilate all those who dare approach it callously. There is only one true check to it, and that one true check, Hisuian Zoroark, is frail, niche, and wishes not to ever come in on this Pokemon's partners. Praise be Annihilate, as there is nothing that can withstand its raw power and its raw resilience. That, and in VGC, it goes well with Mousehold. And for the number 1 slot, I do not know what you're expecting here. Number 1 is still the same old Fluttermane. It still has a niche for itself as an excellent partner to Groudon and Koraidon thanks to its photosynthesis ability. It has an unwallable stab combination, and it at least has the power to at least force a Terra from 2 of the best Pokemon in the tier, being Koraidon and Miraidon, thanks to that lovely 135 speed and 135 special attack Moonblast. Did I mention it's also faster than Arceus? So now, it has the Shadow Claw instead of relying on its usual extreme speed antics. Under the sun, its mystical fires can threaten Iron Treads, and it can also block from Iron Tread's rapid spin attempts at the risk of eating an Iron Head. So yeah, even in the highest powered format, there are still cases to run it. That's just Fluttermane, one of the best ghost types to ever live. Hell, if we throw super legendaries into the equation, its competition isn't that steep. It's probably Lunala, Dawnwing's Necrozma, Arceus Ghost, and Giratina, literally ranking it 5th overall highest ghost. And that is still an accomplishment. You may have power creep, but you don't have arms. So take that, giant floating head. I will never stop saying that Magearna is one of the greatest Pokemon ever made. It can run just about any special attacking set it wants. Slap something like Terra Water, Flying, or Lord knows what else, and then just kinda get moving. Slow Volt Switch makes it an excellent pivot. Spikes lets it function as a bulky spike setter that can get more and more layers over the course of the match. And on top of that, it has the single best typing in the game, a Fairy in Steel. If this wasn't enough, it has Bolt Beam coverage alongside Aura Sphere, Flash Cannon, and Floor Cannon for more offensively oriented Magearnas. And if that wasn't enough, it could also function as a Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Draining Kiss, and Stored Power Sweeper. And if that wasn't enough, Soul Heart is just special attacking Moxie. So if it does get a KO, it gets even stronger. And finally, for the top of all that's the icing on the cake, is that it gets Trick Room. What's so important about that, you may be asking? Well, this lets offensively oriented Magearnas use their Trick Room move first. Because for some reason, they were too good for agility and weakness policy. And for more supportive Magearnas, oh, and that's really strange. Seems that my power went out. Was there really anywhere else this could go? Come on, it was always going to be Deoxys. However, I didn't want multiple forms to cover the list, so I'm going to give an overview of the 2 forms that really do the job. Deoxys Speed is an excellent Stealth Rock setter, and with tools like Psycho Boost, Superpower, and Ice Beam, it can be quite the problem to deal with offensively. The second highest speed in the game guarantees it will usually always get up hazards, and that speed also makes it a solid offensive breaker with Life Orb boosted attacks. Deoxys Attack is a glass cannon made out of paper mache that fires off nuclear weapons. Base 180 attacks, 20 defenses, and 150 speed, all for the express purpose of waiting for the Pokemon with extreme speed to die, and then when it does, it comes in and spams moves of cataclysmic proportion, practically ending your opposing team. When they said this thing could destroy all of Hoenn with a meteor, I believe it with attacking stats like those. slap 4 attacks on it and a life orb, and watch things burst. So after all of that, what's the strongest dark type? What could be stronger than even Chien Pao? It has to be Tyranitar, right? No. Just something, ironically enough, walled by it. It was one of the few things that could. The snack that smiles back is a demon of unparalleled power, with Beads of Ruin lowering the special defense of anything in front of it, and it having 135 special attack. Chi-Yu was capable of outright destroying anything and everything that didn't resist dark and fire. Fire Blast, Overheat, Dark Pulse, Psychic, and then of course Terra and whatever Terra blasted once, typically Grass to beat, you know, Azumarill and Tyranitar. The only thing that could even try to wall a Choice Scarf or Choice Specs Chi-Yu and be guaranteed to succeed is Blissey, who didn't want to exist in the same format as, at the time, Chien Pao, Annihilate, and Great Tusk, who all checked it. 100 speed and 135 special attack, and then an ability that made you more frail just to make sure it one-shot you? The game plan was simple. But Lord, was it way too effective. Dracovish blushes at the damage that Chi-Yu gets away with. And please, do not let it be in the sun. It'll only get worse. Shaman Sky is what we in the business like to call cheap. And that cheapness is so overbearing that no rational human being wants to be on the receiving end of it. With 127 speed and access to Serene Grace, Seed Flare, and Air Slash, they become so utterly spammable that the spam folder on Gmail can no longer contain them. Serene Grace doubling the chance of a secondary effect means Seed Flare has an 80% chance to drop your special defense, and Air Slash has a 60% chance to flinch. With these two factors in tandem, and Earth Power for steals, Shaman Sky is just about unwallable. This was probably its plan for trying to challenge Giratina in that one movie. It's faster and can spam Air Slash, and it works 60% of the time, every time. I'd say it's a pretty solid strategy. Although, I would not put it in on an Ice Shard. That's probably not a good idea. It's a bird! It's a plane! No. It's the greatest damn fish of all time. The Ocean Man, who takes us by the hand, and takes us to the land that he understands. Palafin can just come in, run away to the nearest telephone booth, proc 0 to hero, and become a slacking type monster with no real downside. Slap the best defensive type in the game on it, stats like these, and either a banded set of strong attacks or a bulky set with Jet Punch, Taunt, Bulk Up, and Drain Punch, and this thing either becomes one of the best breakers ever, or a nigh unkillable sweeper that won't give up no matter what the odds are against it. That's what makes it the #1 hero. No matter what happens, no matter what it's up against, it will continue to fight, continue to keep going, and continue to defend us all from the villains known as the League of Gliscor fans. That damn hedgehog. Wait, did I already do this bit? Shaman Sky is what we in the business like to call cheap. Alright, well, yeah, kinda? I didn't do exactly that, but I guess the best grass type happens to also be the best flying type. Nothing really ever changed involving Shaman. It does the same old thing where P's bad in Ubers and spams Serene Grace Air Slash to get flinches with its obscene speed. Or it uses Seed Flare and Earth Power to tear things apart. And when it isn't doing that, it's using an annoying Subseed set that aims to sit there and sap away your hard-earned HP for its floral agenda. Every time Shaman Sky has ever been allowed, it was immediately removed. Ice Shard existing or not, it does not deserve to exist. Recommended Terra, Flying if you want more flinch, Steel if you want to live Ice Shard and then get more flinch. And I technically didn't talk about him in the flying video, but that's because Landorus in that video would have shared the same slot as Landorus? Yeah, I think Landorus Incarnate is as good as we're getting for ground types. While it isn't as powerful as the bear, it is still quite the force to be reckoned with. I don't think it was even allowed in OU on debut. The OU player base knew better than to let it in. The OU player base knew better than to let it in. Despite the fact that Pokemon like Roaring Moon, Enamorus, Walking Wake, and Zamazenta outspeed it, if Landorus Incarnate was in the tier, it would tear the metagame apart. The three best Pokemon in the tier, Goldango, Kingambit, and Great Tusk, would be unable to hit the field with him around. Otherwise, they would be pelted to death by Life Orb Sheer Force boosted Earth powers. And the Pokemon that are faster than it don't want to be caught switching in, lest they take damage, or worse, just die outright. And the defensive Pokemon in the tier, Mola, Glowking, Garganacl, Pecharunt, Dondozo, Clefable, things not named Blissey, Corviknight, and Araquanid, yeah, they're all gonna get actually mopped by this Mon with a combination of Earth Power, Sludge Wave, Grass Knot, and either U-Turn or Nasty Plot. This dude is oppressive. And this isn't accounting for Araquanid webs. Recommended Terra? Water? Ground? Poison? Grass? I couldn't tell you.